Good evening, all. This is the Menlo Park Fire Protection District Board meeting, May 19, 2026, at 7 o'clock. Roll call, please.
We have Director Bernstein,
Present.
Director Bloom,
Here.
Director Jones,
Here.
Director Solano,
Here.
and President Corelli is absent. We have quorum.
Oh, thank you. Pledge allegiance, please. Flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Do you have any public comment?
And we don't have any hands raised at this time
Okay,
online.
Before we get to the fire chiefs, I'd like to introduce my board members here. I know a lot of times it's really hard to read the name tags, from our YouTube site. So we have Director Robert Jones, Director Gary Bloom, Director Chuck Bernstein, myself, Ross Solano, and Chief, would you like to introduce your staff that are here?
Yeah, sure. Fire Chief Mark Lorenzen, our Counsel Nicole Witt, our Administrative Services Director Francine Hunt, our Division Chief of Operations Aaron McDonald, our Finance Manager Elaine Mallory, our HR Manager Kristen McDonald, and our IT Manager Benjamin.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, now we'll go to item number 1, the report of the fire chief for discussion and direction.
Got it. Thank you, Director, members of the board, our staff is here, and anyone that's coming to come online. Happy to share with you my fire chief's reports for our May board meeting. We do have, as noted on the agenda, a specific bullet point for discussing automatic needs-related responses. I'll save that discussion for the end of the report. I'm done. I'm going to go through it in order. So, quick on Station 1 design update. Really, the only significant change is noted in the highlighted parts are that now the city of Menlo Park has split our planning submittal into 2 separate submittals, one for this location here and then one at the 114 Santa Margarita. It just makes it easier to keep them separate. That's the only significant change. Update on recruitments, just recruitments for right now. The firefighter recruitment, approximately 70 candidates went through in-person interviews. The top 13 have been referred to me, and on June 2nd and 4th, Chief Coyle and I will be interviewing our 13 top candidates. The reason for 13 is just from the panels before, there's just a clear delineation between them. So I will say, share just a little information on it. I did look through applications and noted that a good number of them are local. Come from your city directly. Update on the clerk recruitment. We held an internal clerk recruitment. We did have one internal applicant apply, and they will be interviewed on May 27th by myself, President Crawley, and Francine, and we will let you know the results of that. And then fire inspector 1-2 recruitment, we are filling a position. We've had, I think as of yesterday, 40 applications for that position. So that's good news. We should have some really highly qualified candidates. More to come.
Are those from the outside?
Those are from external, yes. That was for a position we had been holding vacant while Gabe was getting his feet on the ground and determining workload. So. Update on the community engagement unit from Heather and Amandeep. Again, lots going on, which is great. Just some of the classes that they gave to Stanford Park Hotel, CPR class, to job train, also a CPR class. Again, these are for staff at these places. Stop the bleed in CPR community classes. That's just their ongoing courses that they gave. They did an emergency preparedness presentation to the National Charity League for teenage girls and moms. They did a CPR class for the Foundation for College Education staff, CPR class for Four Seasons Hotel staff, emergency preparedness presentation to residents at a condo complex in Sharon Heights, a couple different school visits, station visits, Courthouse Preschool at Station 6, Oak Middle School had a visit from Station 1, and Injun visited Trinity Preschool. Some events that they supported was the City of Menlo Park Fun Run. I know Director Crawley participated in that. Our Love Our Earth Festival in East Palo Alto, Atherton Earth Day, Menlo Park Police Department Bike Rodeo, and the Cinco de Mayo Festival also in East Palo Alto. And then provided firefighter rehab support for 2 different events. Fire response analysis report. Specifically, just for the whole board and also for Director Bernstein, we did finally get our consultants correct lines, so they are appropriately lined up. You remember the conversation about how they were, it said 659, and it's in the middle of the 640, so I know they're accurate. Nothing particular interest or noteworthy on there. I will still share with you that our call processing times that really measures public safety communications, PSC's performance, we still don't believe that's accurate. We're trying to work with our different data providers to get that information, work with PSC to get that information. Again, it should be like a left-leaning bell curve on that chart, and it's very skewed heavily towards the left. That is just for your information, the very first graph in the report. It's on page 4.
Speaking of Chief,
Yes.
well, I forget, on page 13 and 14, there's 2 different graph charts there. At the top, it says average travel time analysis by day, a week, and hour. And the other one says average travel time analysis by day, a week, and hour. Are those the same kind of analysis for those?
But yeah, I will say that that's probably not a great heading for that second chart because it's not sharing times on the second chart. It's actually sharing the number of data points that are in each one of those boxes. So we probably should add a note on that. But that's what that number refers to. There was 30 data points in that time. And then the associated average time associated with them is on the corresponding box on
The total number. Okay.
On to other items. I attended an East Palo City Council meeting on April 21st, along with Director Jones, though we did not plan to be there together. I think it happened. It was an interesting meeting. I think that was the meeting where Batman was there.
Batman was there and Robin was on his way, so everybody.
Batman was there, full costume and some makeup. We had San Jose Police Department visit our drone office so they could take a look at what we were doing. They were really looking at our equipment, really good conversations with them. They brought in a number of members of their staff that are currently running their DFR program there to look at the products that we had. I also attended by invitation from our director of emergency management, the Department of Emergency Management, Trudy, asked if I would attend the Emergency Services Council. And normally Chief Pucci goes, who's out of town. They meet, I don't know if they meet monthly or quarterly, I think it's monthly, but good conversations. They had quite a bit about the hazmat program. They're going through budget times right now. Obviously, the county's budget is short. But it was good to be there to be able to answer some questions about hazmat responses. They're looking at trying to purchase a new hazmat vehicle. Just for everyone's information, we don't have an actual hazmat unit here. Our folks are all trained as hazmat first responders. We have San Mateo Consolidated that runs the county's hazardous materials unit. And they are funded through DEM. DEM, I guess, the money's half of the cost the county covers, the other half is spread amongst our cities. It was good information, and I had quite a few questions coming from members that were on that council.
You said among the cities, do you mean literally those agencies or do you mean the city fire departments?
It's the actual cities. It depends. It's interesting. So the city of East Palo Alto, Menlo Park, and Atherton all actually pay for the hazmat services. The fire district does not. Whether that's right or not is a whole separate question. But for those cities that actually have their fire department, some of them just pull it from the general fund. Some of them put the monies into the fire department's budget, and then the fire department pays. But yeah, it's all of the cities.
What's the frequency that we actually have that hazmat call our district?
I'm gonna put it over there, but
Just,
Chief McDonald on the spot for
Frequency, pretty
Yeah.
frequent.
Huh?
For an actual full hazmat
Yeah.
call out, it's pretty frequent.
once a month, twice
It's
a
probably
month.
once a month, and most likely would be a hazmat consult where you call them on the phone, you talk to them.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious.
Could I follow up with that? I was curious about drills. I saw one drill once out at the Baylands and so forth, but how often do you have drills with that?
For hazmat response, probably about once a year. It's more for us to learn how to decon people, not to do the actual hazmat analysis. So our role in hazmat usually is to decon anything that's been contaminated and protect the crews that go in there.
And what about the part before that? That's when we learn that it's a hazmat and so forth.
Oh, we do that once a year. We have refreshers every year for that. For the hazmat first responder, we do that every year.
I think it's a 24-hour, if I remember right.
I don't remember how
I
long it
think
is.
it's 24 hours a year training.
On to the next item, some good news. Can't remember for sure whether I shared it with the whole board, I believe I did. But we had a press conference at the warehouse on May 7th. This was a good news thing. Our Congressman Kevin Mullen, after visiting the warehouse 2 years ago and being really impressed with it, asked us, what can he do to help? And we shared with him, the continuing challenges with all 28 teams and funding, right? What FEMA funds us on an annual basis does not cover the actual cost. So he had been working with a Republican congresswoman from down in Orange County, and then got huge bipartisan support. I forget, that was over 40 Congress members to sign on to the bill on both sides of the aisle, and pushed through an additional $15 million in the this next year's FEMA budget to go to the task force. So that will be split between the 28 teams. The math is a little over $500,000 per team. We'll see if there's any administrative cuts that come off the top for FEMA. And I don't know whether or not there'll be any kind of earmarks or designations for those, but hopefully it will be given to us to kind of help reduce the subsidy that we've got. But that was really good news, and the president signed it, so it is actually signed. Yes.
How much did we lose a couple of years ago when they took the payment for that away?
This is a new additional amount. It's not a restoration of a prior.
The number's been relatively constant. I think going all the way back to the time I was leading the team, which was like 2007, 2008. It's been,
The annual grant.
annual grant hasn't really
by
changed.
Negligible amounts. And
Yeah.
that's really been our position as we've talked to our members in Congress, is that our costs keep going up every year. The cost to run the program goes up, and FEMA has not kept pace with the increasing costs. So this was not a restoration of any kind of cuts. This was just an ask that we had, and he went out and,
And are you going, but I have a clear recollection that we used to get reimbursed for rent on some facility,
Oh.
and that stopped at some.
that was an internal thing for us, that we stopped budgeting a portion of the rent to the FEMA, to the USAR budget. That was just internal. It wasn't, I think there was a thing where FEMA wasn't necessarily hate to use the word happy, but happy with that thought process that we were actually charging rent on something that we own. But, you know, all we did was shifted that rent into, well, we just eliminated it. And what it ended up doing is caused us to have to absorb costs. We didn't lose any money.
Do they still compensate us for a chief up there, right?
They do, it's, well, again, it's how we allocate chief warden's time. I think it's at 30% right now. I think the reality is allocation should be higher, right? But again, we have a fixed pot of money, and however we decide to allocate it, FEMA doesn't care so much. We're only gonna get $1.2 million or $1.3 million a year.
So that 30% number is ours.
That's ours. They don't dictate it.
Okay.
So this for us is truly additional monies coming in spite of the rent conversation that really didn't impact our budget. It's just coming out of one pocket, going in the other.
Well, it made us, I think, more aware of how much we were subsidizing or what we weren't getting.
Yes,
That's what I was referring to.
yes.
How much was the rent that we used to put in there?
I don't remember. It was 10,000.
It's about $120,000 a year.
120,000 a year. Okay, thank you very much.
But anyway, that was good news, really nicely attended press conference. We had 6 different media. Just to note that the JPA Management Committee met on May 12th. This is in advance of the upcoming full board meeting that's going to happen next week, is it tomorrow? Yeah, our discussions mostly were about the budget and also the contract we have with federal engineering. So the management committee approved the tentative budget that's going to go before the full board for approval. This was an interesting one, the Princess of Tonga delegation in the East Palo Alto. That's something that showed up on my calendar, an invitation from City Manager Melvin Gaines, Chief Liu, myself and Heather all attended. It was a morning meeting out at Cooley Landing at their little event center out there. We listened more than spoke. They were coming in, they had representatives from USGS there to talk about volcanic activity and tsunamis. And so we don't have a specific volcanic emergency response plan, so we couldn't add a whole lot, but it was an interesting conversation to listen to. Just a follow up on the last meeting, I said I would take care of this in the chief's report related to internal controls recommendations. There was one recommendation that we have addressed. The recommendation for it was implementation of review and sign-offs for year-end, quarter-end, and month-end close activities within the context of closing checklists. Elaine and his team have established procedure in a review process for fiscal close activities, but there's no formal, there's no formal checklist in place. The district agrees with the recommendations to develop official closing checklists with review and sign-off steps for year-end, quarter-end, and month-end activities, help strengthen the process, ensure consistency and completeness. And this will be completed by the fourth quarter of fiscal year 25, which is right now. So that'll be completed this quarter. I just wanted to share with you that
It's basically
almost that it's complete. So thank you, Elaine. Yeah, that was just
Could you just tell us what it does or how it improves our controls?
Yeah, so essentially, I think that recommendation is, really for us to have a formal checklist on our month-end, quarter-end, and year-end closing process. So right now, what we're doing is, since we all know what we're doing, like every month, every quarter, it's all in our head, pretty much. So what the recommendation is, for like succession planning, right? Good like really practices to document all of those steps. So in case, there's an emergency, someone needs to take a look at it and someone can actually do the job. So right now what we did is we established that, checklists, like formal checklists, for each of that step or procedures that we're doing for month end, quarter end, and year end. So now if there's a file, basically, so now if someone takes a look at it, oh, these are all, the things that we need to do for us to be able to close the books on a monthly basis. So it improves our controls because again, it's basically for, again, for succession planning. And we know exactly, what the segregation of duties are, who reviewed it, who prepared it, who signed off on it. So we have a trail, we have an audit trail. So when the auditor comes and see, like, what are the processes, so that's gonna be documented.
Is there anyone outside the accounting group that is part of that?
It's essentially just for the accounting group, so it's just for the finance team. So it's internal processes, basically.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on our conversation on the Camellia fire that was in East Palo Alto on the fire cause follow-up that I promised I would do. I chatted with Lena, who was our fire cause investigator on that, to ask her about, we had initial reports that it was electrical. She said actually after she had gone in and done her investigation, the cause was undetermined, so they can't target it and associate it with that. She said it was suspicious in nature, but still hard to determine what the actual cause was. Was not related to knob and tube wiring, and also just as a note, generally well-maintained knob and tube wiring is not a lot of people are a little concerned about it because it's so old and it's different, but generally well-maintained tube wiring does not cause problems. Just going to talk briefly about two incidents that we had that occurred both on May 16th. One was on a 500 block of Glenwood Avenue in Menlo Park. It was a bedroom fire that was extinguished by the residents with water, so pretty much out on our own. And then also we had one in the 2000 block of Oakwood in East Palo Alto. And that caused enough damage for the residents to be displaced. Red Cross came in to offer assistance. And we also issued a save card, which gives them, it's almost $250 in cash. It's through California Professional Firefighters. Our VCs all carry save cards if we have a resident that's been displaced throughout damage. So into the.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm just curious, if we discover code violations and something like that, what do we do about that?
Code violations in a residence or something?
Or in response to a fire, there's some code violation.
Right. I would not, well, if the fire crews detect or see the code violations, they would refer to our fire prevention folks. If the fire prevention folks are out there investigating and actually discover that, then they can go through the city's building department. Depends on whether they're fire code violations or building code violations.
Do we report that to the cities involved?
I have to check, but I'm pretty sure we do. So, yeah.
It just seems like lots of these things, they don't have smoke alarms or there's something like that. And I just have never heard any about follow-up to any of that.
I'll check. On to the conversation about automatic and mutual aid. This conversation is a result of an item that Director Bernstein had put on the agenda for a future agenda item discussion. And while we were discussing the item at last month's meeting, I said, I probably can add this to the fire chief's report and we can have a back and forth discussion and cross that off our list, or I'll have a couple of follow-up items, it really depends. But the first thing I just want to do as we talk about the concepts of automatic and mutual aid, and a lot of it has to deal with our commitment to other agencies and the reciprocity of that. But just for, so that we're all on the same page, when we talk about mutual aid, we can have mutual aid within our county, but mutual aid comes by special request, right? It's not included in our run cards or in the CAD system so that it's something's automatically dispatched. But we have a specialized piece of equipment or something needs something additional, somebody can request it through dispatch, through direct call to us, something like that. We did it on the 2700 Middlefield fire. I think Chief McDonald called Palo Alto and asked them to cover a station in East Palo Alto. That would be a mutual aid request. Right? No reimbursement. There's no intention on reimbursement. But that's how it happens in the county. That one in that case was actually account across county lines. That can happen also. Back many years ago, when California's master mutual aid system was created after the Los Angeles fires, usually there was no reimbursement back in those days, and we just all would respond to each other's fires to help out because we recognized no one agency could do that. So over time, those mutual aid requests for out of county wildland fires or other incidents have turned into reimbursable incidents normally. We do that when if it's a CAL FIRE incident, or usually typically if it's a federal incident on US Forest Service lands, but it could be Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife, a variety of them. We get reimbursed for those incidents when they make a request. Those are also mutual aid requests, even though there's reimbursement associated with them. They make a request, the incident commander in Mono County might make a request, and it goes through a process through Cal OES and out to our operational area coordinators for a request for a strike team of engines, 5 engines. The operational area coordinator will check to see if there are agencies willing to send their 5 engines. So it's not, we're not obligated to send them. If we have something going on here or short staffed or whatever, we can decline the assignment. If we accept the assignment, we go out and it's reimbursed under the California Fire Assistance Fee, or we get reimbursed basically for our personnel costs and for our apparatus costs. They pay us an hourly rate that's in line with the FEMA equipment reimbursement rates. We are pretty much made whole on those. And in fact, we have, what's our current administrative rate, do you recall? For CFAA, is it 18%?
About 17.
17%. So we tack on a 17% administrative fee on top of whatever our reimbursement is. So that compensates us for all the administrative work that goes into the billing process. So we are made financially whole on those. And then also understand that when we send those resources out, at least for Menlo Park, we backfill our stations, right? So we don't leave our stations open. And because our primary responsibility is to provide coverage for our constituency. And if we're able to, and we can send an engine out to help while we still protect our communities, we'll do that. Automatic aid is a different beast to a degree. Generally, our automatic aid agreements are in county, but they can be across county lines, and I'll talk a little bit about our hopes and plans with Palo Alto in a minute. But these automatic aid agreements are really done for us, generally under the concept of sending the closest resource to the call. All of the fire agencies in San Mateo County have automatic aid agreements and general understanding that we will send the closest available resource based on your GPS location to an incident. There's no expectation that there's any financial compensation for us to respond to each other's calls. It's one of those things that we do because it's what's best for the members that live in our communities or that work in our communities. And it's just a good government thing. We have a say in what resources go where, and that's usually done in advance when we put a new resource into the system. But once we agree to the automatic aid agreement, we give the authority to actually respond that piece of equipment to PSC, our dispatch center. Right? So they don't have to check those. It's just kind of a standing order that if we have a medical call here or a fire here and Menlo's engine is closer than Redwood City's, Menlo's engine is going. They don't need to ask permission.
Chief, did that include a scenario under just what you're describing there, where, as an example, Redwood City's resources are depleted on a fire. So would that be auto aid then for
Yes.
our engine 3 or engine 5 to go into Redwood City?
So we can, we have the ability to, I hate to use the word rescind, but we can also back out of it, make some changes. Sometimes, and the example that Director Bernstein gave was, at some point in time in the past, Redwood City closed down a station. Big budget issues, and it had a significant impact on us. Right, because now suddenly Menlo Park is closer and is responding into Redwood City's jurisdiction, and so it's really not fair in situations like that to shift the burden onto another agency. So we can, through the way we design the CAD dispatch, we can actually, in a situation like that, if Redwood City was to do something like that, we could actually create rules inside of the CAD system so that Redwood City, if a medical call happened in an area where they had just closed down a station, we could still require the CAD system to recommend a Redwood City agent. Whether or not we want to do that or not is a whole separate thing, but that's possible. I know as we just recently went back to closest resource, we were having some challenges with sending the closest available resource for a while. The last couple of years we were sending based on station ordering. So basically a static ordering system that sent the engine based on jurisdiction. When we switched back over to that, it was having impacts up on between San Bruno and South City. And they created some rules in the CAD system so that, there was, I think, one address that was a very busy address. You can think about like a residential care facility or something like that. It was kind of close to the border, and it was, I don't remember, but let's say it was San Bruno's responsibility, and South City was having to go to that, place 12 times a day, and they were only 10 seconds closer, right? So they went in with a 10-second difference, and the huge impact it was having on South City put some tweaks into the CAD ordering system, so San Bruno's engine was now going to go to that. So there are things that we can do that can create a little bit more equity in between jurisdictions if somebody's overly taxed or burdened by the system, but that's something that we do with PSC as we start looking at those different issues.
Chief, could I follow up on Gary's question a second?
Sure.
I'm not sure I understood the answer. Gary's question was something about Redwood City, and if they were overtaxed somewhere, we would go in.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's sort of part of the mutual aid and all those kind of things. We would always do that, right? But the closest unit is a totally different field. I mean, that's sending us as the first responder.
Well, it would be if Redwood City has a fire and the majority of their engines on our southern end are busy on that fire, the system's gonna look for the closest available resource into Redwood City, and that's gonna be us in all likelihood, because, engine 3 might be in quarters. And so they may be responding into an area where they normally wouldn't, but it's because the southern end of Redwood City is open because they're all busy on fire.
Or vice versa.
And it happens vice versa. It happened this weekend. We had that fire in East Palo Alto. We had a lot of our resources on that. And Redwood City moved in, I think, 2 engines, I don't know, it could have been more, to cover our jurisdiction. Right, so they,
For that, Bill?
yeah. So we do that for each other too, right? So if we end up with big gaps in our system, or holes in our coverage areas, we'll slide into each other's areas. Does it make us a little bit thinner? Yeah, but just like Redwood City gave up 2 of their engines, and then they had to equalize within their district to be able to cover it. They do the same thing for us so that we're not absolutely bare. So those things happen, and then, it usually takes half an hour, 45 minutes for us to start bringing up engines, and we can send them back. But that's one of those things that also happens. That's not an automatic aid issue so much that, as much
Is it
as.
not, it is on.
Well, it is that we give, it's not so much that it's on a run card, but our dispatchers at PSC will see the gaps, or we'll call them and say we need coverage, and they'll look for an available engine to be able to send down. Right, so they have to also look and see where Redwood City's coverage is, and they can pick an engine, send engine 10 down to cover us.
Does PSC always do the backfill part of it, or I thought we were involved to some extent on the backfill?
We, PSC should be, you know, on those things where we're moving engines through jurisdictions to cover, that should be a PSC thing. Sometimes they're busy and they don't always catch it, so our battalion chiefs or our ops chief, Chief Coyle will be at home on the weekend and make a phone call. So everybody's kind of checking out to make sure when we have a big incident, either side, that we're helping out or being helped. So those things happen.
If I recall during the North Fair Oaks fire, Daly City was doing the medical calls in the park in Atherton.
Oh, yeah, and we had Palo Alto doing medical calls in East Palo Alto, which, yeah, it's just, we don't even have an arrangement for that. Fortunately, we've got somebody who knows someone in Palo Alto. Over to the Palo Alto plan and the conversation. Right now, we don't have an automatic aid agreement. We used to. And I think it was a combination of a number of things that caused delays. A lot of it had to do with budget constraints and staffing. Palo Alto's pretty much fully staffed. They have one station where they cross staff, an engine and an ambulance. Both of us, the other fire chief and myself, as well as our board, is very interested in restoring automatic aid between us. Like you mentioned, Director Bernstein there. Probably oftentimes you're closest engine into your neighborhood and they're not coming. So we are currently working on how to connect our CADs so that we can be aware of when each other has a call, and also to see if we can't determine what the status is of their closest engine. Nice thing with PSC is they know what the status is of every engine in the county, meaning whether they're available for a call, on a call, or maybe tied up in training. We don't have that transparency yet when it crosses county lines because we don't, the dispatches aren't connected. But we're working to remedy that so that when we can, we will start going and responding on each other's calls via an automatic aid agreement between the two jurisdictions. Woodside's also interested too because they share borders with Palo Alto.
How's it? Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna ask, how's it working with like Fremont for the bridge? Is that just both are dispatched? It's not a mutual aid arrangement?
Say how.
Yeah, both dispatch.
So one direction, each
Yeah, we'll
direction?
call our PSC and have us go, and then they send theirs, or we'll call them and they
Okay, but that's not an auto aid thing, that's just
phone calls between them.
phone calls between being dispatched in the correct direction.
Chief, the reason I brought one is I live in the south part of the county and resources always move north, and there was nothing coming up north from.
Right.
So, is auto aid allowed across counties? Or-
Yes.
The reason it stopped, as I heard, was that it was the county chiefs who got together and voted against it.
It was, the next item on my list was to discuss the county chief's opposition that occurred in the past. I wasn't around then. I've heard rumors of that. There is no opposition to automatic aiding with all of the fire chiefs that sit in it. Yeah, everybody's on board with what we're doing is the right thing. And people also recognize that Menlo Park is currently right now at the end of the cul-de-sac. Right, because no one's coming from the south. No ambulances, which is a whole separate issue, and no fire resources. So, and you know, agencies up in the North County also have the same issues, right? So, and they want automatic aid with the city of San Francisco. So there won't be any opposition from the county chiefs with us moving forward on this, and they'll be in full support of that. A separate issue that we still have to overcome, and I'm not quite sure how to do it, is the AMR resources, right? And that's because there's two separate county contracts and systems and money's involved and I've already had conversations with AMR San Mateo County about trying to do what we're trying to do and open up cross-county borders, but there's a lot of different politics involved with AMR and contracts and the money associated with transports.
So is it safe to say that go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I've been trying, I think, since 2025 to figure out who has the major responsibilities for the rescues on the bay. We possess the equipment, the airboats, the boats, and everything relative to those rescues. And we're at PSC dispatching us to those types of instances, right? But we have the equipment, we put in the training, I think we spend, what, $400,000 a year in order to train our people there with equipment and everything. Something like that. I think in 2025, we spent $400,000 for training and equipment. And it's an auto aid situation for the bay for us. Is it auto aid or is it mutual aid? Do we have a mutual aid agreement with, you say, we don't have one with Palo Alto, so we border Palo Alto Airport. If there was a crash like there was in 97, 98, the major responsibility is gonna fall on us, even though we don't have an auto aid.
Right, I would imagine, I think we get kind of into semantics on it, but it's more of a mutual aid responsibility.
So it'd be more
They'll special request us, I think it doesn't go through PSC. And they'll ask us, I don't know if PSC would just direct dispatch us.
Direct dispatch.
So it's kind of a hybrid then, but they have to ask, right? It's not, if there is
anything
something in their
writing
jurisdiction.
that has like a standard operating procedure where who's in charge for those types of rescues south of the Dumbarton Bridge up to the jurisdictional
We
authority?
the incident commander is ultimately in charge, whoever gets dispatched to it, the incident commander is ultimately.
So
in
it
charge.
would be the battalion chief that would be in charge of,
We'll
or
likely be in
shooting from
charge.
the hip. Would that be a term? That would be a good term, shooting by the hip?
Or.
I wouldn't characterize it as shoot from the hip, but the BC's trained for it, and then Redwood City has a boat that would also get dispatched in that
Our
scenario.
current policy in the county is we send 3 water assets to any sort of water rescue on the bay. And that took place 2 years ago after a pier from Coast Guard collapsed. We used to get automatic dispatch with Coast Guard also, but they have moved that up towards past the Golden Gate where the closest pier is now. So we're now sending 3 water resources to every call in the bay. That's for safety for our own folks too.
They're up at the Golden Gate.
Yeah.
Right at the Golden
But-
Gate.
As I said, there isn't any SOP or standard operating procedure through either us or PSC relative to that type of an incident, like an airplane crash or something like that.
No, we have SOPs on how to do it, like run the calls.
Who has the jurisdictional authority from south of the Dumbarton Bridge or to the Palo Alto line or Santa Clara line? Do we have anything like that?
Nothing, I'm aware of, no. Normally it's whoever's on the scene first, the incident commander, and then it goes to, I would assume, whatever agency has jurisdiction as far as their water, because Menlo Park City goes out pretty far in the bay, it is part of Menlo Park. So we do have that.
And that goes,
We were told
It's ultimately
by our
Coast Guard.
council, we were told by our council that our jurisdictional authority only went to the shoreline of East Palo Alto relative to the bay and parts of LA. Okay. So technically don't have the jurisdictional authority other than the PSC dispatching us.
I think the staff report said there's joint jurisdictional responsibility between us, the sheriff, and Coast Guard. Right, and it's really kind of a muddy situation, no pun intended there, but kind of a muddy situation because it's, Coast Guard, I think, has ultimate authority, but I don't think they even have boats that can get into those waters.
No, they don't.
And the sheriff doesn't have water resources.
Well,
And
they
then,
do, but
so,
it's on the other side.
right, so,
Well,
Yeah,
they
the unfortunate-
frequently have one at Coyote Point, but again, it's It's not an asset that can go into the mud flats. It's a boat.
And it's not full-time.
It's not full time.
That's correct. So, and my issue or my concern is the aspect that, we're shooting from the hip. It's whoever's on scene command, and that may be not, expedient as maybe we would need it to be. And we're relying on PSC in order to do dispatching. And it's not really an auto aid or mutual aid responsibility. So it's a sticky wicket. And I think it can be solved easily through some type of a mutual aid or auto aid agreement between at least our agencies and the other agencies that we support, Palo Alto and our other county PSC affiliates. And, you know, I just see shoot from the hip.
Through
That's
the
what I
chair,
saw.
Rob,
through the chair.
I tend to,
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Through the chair. You know, this type of dialogue for me is richer than milk at this point in time. And but I think it's not part, it's part of the report, but it's not part of the report. It needs to go deeper, I think. Because I agree with everything you're talking about. We need to get some clarity. Can we, is it possible to put this on a special agenda item?
We can do that.
So to sort of make sure we kind of get into it, because I'm still trying to figure out what PSE is, so I don't want to go back to that, but I
It's
just
public
want,
safety communication.
but I don't know what that means, so, but what I'm saying is that I think we should put it somewhere into having a longer conversation to really get into it. And I don't know if it's through the chief report or just add it to our agenda.
No, the chief's done a great job.
Yeah.
Doing all this and explaining this to us. And he raised a whole bunch of questions that I have, you know, relative to, not only engagement responsibilities, but, you know, I know where we sit, because we're it, basically. We have all the equipment, the training, and the resources for any those types of rescues. So, you know, who's gonna be in charge?
so can I make a comment? So we had a chief's report on this previously, and we as a board agreed that chief's report satisfied the issue at that point in
Well, we
time.
didn't
So-
agree that it satisfied the issue,
so-
we just agreed that.
Well,
that the
we
chief was
agreed not to
going
continue the discussion. So to Robert's point, if we want to put it back on the agenda, then we should put it add it in the agenda section and have a discussion about whether the board consensus at that time is to have this discussion again. Because we did have legal analysis on it, we had a chief's report on it, and we chose not to pursue further action as a board at that time. And so if we want to resurface it, it should go back in the new topics for the agenda. And then the only thing I would add to the commentary going back and forth is, I don't consider it, and I think it's mischaracterized for the public to characterize it as shooting from the hip, when PSC is dispatching 3 different water rescue assets simultaneously for safety purposes. And there's a coordinated response as to who takes incident command and who leads the scene. That to me is not shooting from the hip. It's an organized response that's no different on water than it is an organized response on land. And then the Coast Guard does still have jurisdiction over it. And the Coast Guard, well, they can't send a boat, they can send a boat that far down, and they do. They can also put an air asset in if there's an immediate rescue need over water. And they have rescue swimmers, and they can go into mud, and they can go anywhere. So I just don't want to mischaracterize it to think that the public starts thinking that as a fire agency and as a county and as a Coast Guard, that somehow it's a disorganized, chaotic response out on the bay. You know, I'm on the bay frequently, and I can tell you it's very organized responses. They happen very quickly, just like, to me, no different than the way a fire response works on land.
Well, I'm glad that you have that assumption. But the reason why I brought it up as a concern is I don't have the same assumptions that you have.
So,
I'm not making an assumption, I'm just giving an
Well, you are.
observation.
You're- well,
I'm giving an
observation
observation
or
from my
some-
experience
through
on
the
the bay.
chair, Well, we'll spend like 15 minutes on who got the right assumption. So let's just, if I may, just make a recommendation that we put this item back on the agenda, to look at. And we do have a section here on our agenda where new items or repeat items, let's
Exactly
bring
what you
it, put it back in there. Set a time to do it. If we have to retreat again somewhere to do it, let's do that so we can at least get all the questions and answers that people are looking for out in the
Okay.
public. Is that-
All right, Robert. You understand?
We can do that, then we can get some guidance from you on what answers you're looking for.
Okay.
And I will share, whether or not we have a formal agreement. I know they're in the system, they get automatically responded, and the first captain or unit on scene is the incident commander, so. It's just, there's never a situation where somebody's not sure. It's not, in my experience, with what we see, but we could use some clarity on it. That would be fine.
Can I ask a follow-up question on the Palo Alto mutual aid, which is it going to include their ambulance, or will that be excluded from Palo Alto Menlo Park
I think
mutual?
that would be excluded.
Because of the AMR
Yeah, because all.
discrepancies and
It'll be
protocols.
for, yeah, they can send.
They'll send an engine, but they won't
it
send
be for transport.
transport. Okay, thank
That
you.
would be cost, maybe someday it won't cause problems.
Yeah, I agree that would cause chaos.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question, Chief, just to follow up on something you said, just to make sure I'm understanding this. Given that this is not an auto aid, talk about the bay, out on the bay is not an auto aid situation. Does that mean if there were an incident, we would have the right to send a bill to the Coast Guard for whatever we did? I thought that's what you said with mutual aid, that we have the option to be reimbursed.
Before you send something, you have to have an agreement. If the Coast Guard is asking us to respond, which I don't think they are, we're just getting a call from 911. You have to agree in advance on whether or not you're gonna get reimbursed. You can't just respond and send a bill.
You didn't say that the first time,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
But that goes in, you know, that's one of those questions when we have these wildland fires and somebody makes a request. Generally, the question is who's paying and under what agreement? Right, before we ever send those resources out, that happens at the operational area coordinator and dispatch center. So that way, if somebody says, because if it's a wildland fire in the local responsibility area, let's say it's the Oakland Hills, and the land up there is not owned by the state or the feds, it's quite possible the fire chief there might be asking for mutual aid to respond to an Oakland Hills fire, and there's no reimbursement. Do you want to go? And that's up to each individual fire chief to decide whether they're willing to go over there for free, because Oakland doesn't have the money to pay for all these resources fighting fire on what is inside their city limits.
Excuse me.
And that,
Robert,
that can
can you
happen.
satisfy that the chief is gonna follow up on it?
Well, I'm hoping that we can, yeah, that,
You're good?
what's that?
Because I am.
If I
Okay.
could on that item, if we could just bring it up when we get to the new agenda item section, we'll add it in there.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
I have one more question about that. This relates to the actual auto aid. You said we have the discretion to not put equipment into as part of auto aid.
Like the water tender.
Well, and when we first bought a second truck, we didn't put that in because we were feeling like we already were too short just in our area. But will PSC dispatch something that is not part of auto aid? Will they dispatch the second truck?
They shouldn't. My
Should
understanding,
not.
they should not. My understanding is right now, the second truck is part of the auto aid agreement. That changed at some point in time. That said, if there's something that's not in there as part of the auto aid agreement, they should be calling us to ask us if we'd be willing to send it. They should not.
Okay, I wasn't talking about that way. Will they dispatch it on our behalf if we have not put it into the kitty?
No.
They won't dispatch anything that's not in.
No, they'll dispatch it in our district.
Oh, sure, yeah, for our district, but
That's what I'm asking.
let's say our new water tender, if we don't want to put it in the system and make it available to a neighbor, they should. I don't know for sure that it wouldn't happen, but that it should not,
It should not go out to someone else, I understand.
not unless we've given them permission.
But they'll still dispatch in our jurisdiction.
They will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're sure of that too?
So that was the end of my report. And it sounds like more to come.
Today, yeah.
Yes, well, sounds like more, but that was, that
Thank
was good,
you.
robust discussion. With that concludes my fire chief report.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any other items you?
I have a question on the report, and other parts of the report. I just want to know if it's gonna relate to something later on the agenda that I wanna suggest on the agenda item. But on page, page page 11 of the packet, on the monthly report for the response time histograms.
Yes.
It's showing us substantially past the 7-minute thing now of the different chart. And I'm just wondering, year to date, it's not so far apart, but it is now. Is this something you think could merit discussion, or do you think?
Well, I think-
It's an aberration.
No. I think, and maybe it's possible that we should remove that 6-minute 59 mark on that particular chart. That we put that in there just to show where the LEMSA requirement is, that LEMSA requirement of 6:59 is only a requirement for if you look at the chart on page 12, that's only EMS calls. And also the chart on where else it is, but that requirement is, and that goes back to the FRU monies that we get through the ALS JPA. You know, in order to stop the clock for AMR with our paramedics, we have to get to ALS calls within 6 minutes and 59 seconds, 90% of the time. So that's our one true standard benchmark that we've established that is something that we follow pretty closely. And we also are meeting it consistently from month to month and year over year when we're just on EMS calls only. So that one in there is just kind of a reference point, you know, in those charts that you're
So
talking about.
we're not violating any
No.
agreement.
No, but it might be confusing too, in that it's not a standard that should be applied to that. And we haven't noted.
I didn't realize there was a differentiated between all that.
Just Chuck, I think what the real fix is what's on the outstanding staff reports, which is us establishing our goals.
Yeah.
Because right now we have this kind of nefarious measurement process and we're giving there's a lot of data here, but there's not clarity as to
What it means.
well, not clarity as to what we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Or what the goal is. So to me, we should have goals on these things. It's something that's already teed up. And then these other things are just, you know, outside of the LEMSA requirement, it was trying to just put a mark there to say, where are we at the 90th percentile? So we can stay focused to what's the volume of outliers to a reasonable response time, but it's not based on board established goals.
Let me
It's
just
just
ask quickly.
one
this is
measurement,
all
one
types.
source to work.
If somebody called about cats stuck in a tree, would that be considered one of the all call types?
Yes. Would be a public service call.
Okay, but that would be counted, this is literally all
Fires,
fires.
there's like wires down, trees down, cats and trees.
Okay,
People in person.
Keys in the car.
Keys in the car.
okay.
And you guys, this session,
I'm good.
relative to the chief's report? Thank you, chief. We're getting to, item 2, public hearing.
Director Solano, I just want to remind you to invite public comment after each item
Oh, thank you.
discussion. Thank you.
Any public comment on issues?
And we have no hands raised online.
Oh, we don't, okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to public hearing. Item number 2, public hearing on fire district is. Kristen? Yes. Agency to recruitment and retention efforts, Assembly Bill 2561, Government Code Section 350.2.
Okay, so this was approved by the California State Assembly in 2024. And it requires public agencies to hold a public hearing to address the status of job vacancies prior to the adoption of the upcoming final budget. So we present the following required information in this hearing. Number one, the information on the district's recruitment and retention efforts. And number two, obstacles in the district's policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may create challenges in the hiring process. So currently the district has just 8 vacancies. So we have the clerk of the board, 1 risk reduction officer, 2 fire inspectors, and 4 firefighter engineer positions. So the clerk of the board, we will be having interviews on May 27th. For the fire prevention vacancies, we are currently holding the risk reduction officer position vacant while we're checking to see what the job load is in that area. We are currently recruiting for the 1 fire inspector, and we are holding 1 vacant right now. As the chief said, we have 47 applications for that position, and we had it open for 3 weeks, and it's got 1 week left. And for our 4 firefighter engineer vacancies, we had we're currently in the middle of that recruitment. We had planned on leaving that position open for a full month, but we reached our cap of 500 applications in just 9 days. So we're not actually seeing any big hurdles with recruitment processes right now, or filling the positions or getting application pools. In compliance with the code, we're also required to address employee retention efforts. So we're pleased to report that the district has no significant issues regarding retention. The average length of service of our employee groups is as follows. AFSCME, about 7.5 years. Chief officer positions, over 19 years. The fire chief is at 4.28 years. IFF District 10 at 13 years. IFF District 13, which is our VCs, is almost 25 years. And management and confidential, about 8.3 years. So we are not noting any major obstacles in our hiring process, policies and procedures that are creating any sort of challenges. And as seen by our applicant pools, we're attracting qualified candidates. And our years of service show there's no significant issues with retention. So lastly, what this bill does is that if the number of job vacancies within a single bargaining unit meets or exceeds 20% of the total number of authorized full-time positions, we must, upon request of the recognized employee organization, include specified information during this public hearing. But as of right now, there are no bargaining units for the vacancy rate that exceeds 20%. So we have now fulfilled our obligation under AB 2561.
Okay, any
Public comment.
So we need to ask for public comment.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna do it. There's any discussion. Is there any public
I
comment?
just kind of, is this a report or? It wasn't in my packet, that's why.
No, I wrote something, but it wasn't provided. It's just part of the hearing.
But are we supposed to, is this something that's supposed to be on our website or posted or anything like that?
No, there's no requirement for any of that. The only requirement is in the public hearing, when we do the presentation in accordance with what we just outlined. Then when we accept any public comment, go to the public hearing, we have to do it at a certain cadence for the budget adoption.
Okay, thank you.
Once again, I'll take any public comment.
And we have no hands raised online.
Okay, then I will close public comment. We'll go to the consent calendar, items 3 through 5. Do I have a motion? And we'll set the consent calendar. We'll take items up.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
A second.
Have a,
So Gary Bloom moved it and Director Jones seconded it.
well, thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
So I just could tell she couldn't hear.
And would you like me to take
Might need my
roll call?
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones, Director Solano.
I,
Thank you. Motion carries.
are there any public comments relative to the consent agenda? There's no one-
No hands raised. Yeah,
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we'll go to the regular agenda. Item 6, accept the deployment status report for California Gas Force 3, Building Search and Rescue, and adopt a resolution authorizing the budget amendment by increasing expenditures and revenue in the special revenue fund by $1,837,822 for the fiscal year 2024.
Could be, Lane and I will kind of, partner up on this and see, it should be a pretty short item here. This is, assuming we get deployments, it's an annual administrative, item more than anything, where, we are requesting the board to adopt a resolution increasing our special revenue fund by that 1.8 million and some change, and also a corresponding increase in expenditures that is a wash, so that we can record those reimbursements that are going to come in from our funds. Then I'll let the link fill in any blanks that are needed. Other than that, we'll open the session.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short. So basically, this is a recurring report, an annual report. So this was presented also to the finance committee meeting last 2 weeks ago. So what this report is about is, we will report in all the deployments that transpired throughout the year, including any reimbursements, claims, and any pending items that we are still waiting for. So that includes anything from the prior year, as you can tell from I think page 550 of the report. Out of the packet, so table 1, this is for the current fiscal year. So these are all the deployments, that happened during the fiscal year, and then table 2 is from the prior year. So you can tell, the amount of money that we're still, waiting to be reimbursed for. From the prior year, we only have about $31,000 left that we're waiting to get reimbursed. And then for this fiscal year, we have about $652,000. But just to actually clarify on that one, we actually received a bunch, about I would say 25% already of the reimbursements for this fiscal year, since we actually received about $1.1 million from the Washington Floods deployment. This is an advance payment. We haven't filed the claim yet, but we already received money from it. So as the chief mentioned, this is a recurring report and a recurring ask, on a yearly basis. We're asking to appropriate $1.8 million for both revenues and expenses for us to record the budget as well as the reimbursement. That's actually all of it, unless there are questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Robert, Gary?
Finance committee went for it.
No,
Okay, is there any public comment? Any public comment?
there are no hands raised online.
Great, thank you.
So I want to make a motion.
May I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the development status report for California Task Force, blah, 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 year 25, 26.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion in a second.
Director Bernstein?
Roll call. After.
oh, I just wanted to ask a question. This was sort of a new thing to me, where they were making a distinction between the response agreement and the readiness agreement. Is that new, or have we always had these two parts?
We've always had those reports. So the readiness is the cooperative agreements. Those are the grants, the $1.2 to $1.4 million that we receive every year. So the response is, the actual, deployments where we're also getting reimbursed for.
Maybe that's why we're getting so many. I didn't make that distinction before, and this is the first time I sort of picked that up, or the text alerted me that there were two different things going on here. Okay, and I'll vote aye if I interrupted your call for a vote.
Oh, roll call?
Okay, Director Bernstein is
Aye.
aye. Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
and Director Solano.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
Aye. Four. Number 4, accept the treasurer's report for the month ended March
No,
31st.
No, you're number 7.
You're on the 7 round.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Discuss the annual appropriation limit of $1,807,916.792 for fiscal year 2016.
We're gonna let Elaine talk very briefly about our annual, I don't think we're even approving it yet, right? We're kind of sunshining it, the DM.
Yeah, so this one is some sort of a refresher. So every year we do this, we calculate appropriation limit. So this is a result of Prop 13 and Proposition 4, which essentially limit the growth of government spending on expenditures. So as a result, there is a cap on local government revenue that can be appropriated on a given fiscal year. So typically that limit is only applied for proceeds of taxes. So anything that's not proceeds of taxes are not subject to that limit. So on an annual basis, we adjust it based on the population and per capita income changes provided by the California State Department of Finance. So based on the formula that was provided by the state, the district appropriation limit for fiscal year 26-27 is about $188 million. And the subjective limit for that appropriation is $98.2 million. And with that, with the math, we are actually 89.8 million under the limit. So we have enough appropriation limit to cover for anything that's subject to that limit for the next fiscal. And that's it for the appropriation limit. Again, as the chief mentioned, we're going to sunshine this. I think we're required to make it public or for it to be publicly available for 15 days before the actual adoption. So we're going to adopt this formally in the June meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion? Robert, Gary, Judd? Okay, any public comment?
We have no hands raised at this time online.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
We don't need it.
We don't need. Then we'll go on to item 8. Adopt 5 resolutions of districts fiscal year 2026-2027 preliminary budget and full-time equivalent FTE staffing level.
I think Elaine is gonna share a couple of minor modifications that we've made since last time you reviewed the budget, but I don't really be going to review it in depth. Yes.
So for this time around, I think I can tell you I think you can refer on page 608, 686 of the package. So this is the timeline.
686. The adoption
So this is
schedule.
the timeline, as the chief mentioned, that for this is last month we presented the budget to both finance committee meeting and finance committee and to the full board. So this time around in the May meetings, we did present this to the finance committee meeting as well. And to the board right now, what we are asking is to adopt a preliminary budget. So in terms of the actual discussion, again, the chief mentioned, I'm really not gonna talk about each of the items again for this particular meeting. What I'm gonna focus on is the changes that we did from the last board meeting. So if you turn on the next page, which is 687. So basically, there's only 2 changes. One for the general fund and one for the CIP fund. So for the general fund, which is on page 687, there is a $46,000 increase for both revenues and expenditures. So this is as a result of CalOES extending the agreement for the current, water rescue grant that, we received from them in the last couple of years. So they actually intend to increase, the funding by $46,000 for the next fiscal year. So with that being said, we're also increasing our budget for both revenues and expenses for $46,000 because that amount is reimbursable. So that's the first change. And then the second change is on the next page, which is page 688 of the packet. So there is a $30,000 increase in the capital outlay, which is the purchase of the fixed assets, and that is for the proposed purchase of a trailer for the water rescue program. I think the chief probably has more information on that, but that $30,000 is just a change for the CIP fund. Other than that, those are only the two changes in terms of the numbers. As for the report overall, we added like a few informational items. Just for example, for attachment B, we now added the goals and accomplishments for each of the programs. So I think that's basically it for the preliminary.
Good, Chair. If you have questions, I can share with you any discussion.
I have just maybe just an inquiry. Elaine, I think in our meeting, you talked about, well, could you explain to me a little bit about the ERAF? I guess that's how you pronounce it, ERAF. Source of funds, because I read an article today coming from the county, and if this is the same funds that is being, I guess the state is holding up funds coming in to the county, and I think it's several $1 million that the county is owed, and part of that money is trickle down into the school system as well as to the fire district. And I just want to get an idea of, have we received this money yet? Is it because it seems like this San Jose County, along with a couple other counties, have not received their allocation from the state yet because of.
In terms of ERAF, we actually already received a portion of it, half of it, in December, January timeframe. So the timeline is essentially the first 50% of the ERAF, rebate is dispersed in December, January. Usually it's end of December or really early January. And then the second half of the disbursement is going to be in August. And that's still going to be for fiscal year 25-26. So that's basically the timeline of the county on when we receive that ERAF rebate. So the only reason why we have an ERAF rebate is because I think, like stepping back, right? If we talk about the ERAF shift, so essentially, I think in 1992 or 1992, 1993 or 1993, 1994, there's a shift in the property tax, revenues from counties, cities, and special districts in order to fund the school system. And then that funding is actually based on, state school formula, all of that complicated, formulas. But since, the growth of our, tax, rates or revenues within, the county actually surpassed, the needs of, the school systems, we are actually getting back some of those shifts that happened during that fiscal year. So that is where the ERAF rebate or the ERAF revenue is coming from. But when it comes to the timeline, we already received half of it in December, and then we're expecting to still receive half of it in August of this year.
What percentage of our total funds that we receive come from that ERAF funding?
Percentage, Director, just in terms of our revenue.
Overall revenue, yeah.
I actually did not calculate that, but
Don't worry about it. I mean, you just got some ballpark figure. That's okay too. The reason I'm asking is that the article that I read today, it appeared that funding may or may not, more like not, will be happening anytime soon because the state is running into a budget deficit. And part of what they are cutting back is part of that ERAF funding throughout the state. And so, it says out of the 50 some odd counties within the state of California, they only were able to fund 6% of that number. And the rest of the counties are, money is on hold. And so that's why I was wondering and trying to get an idea. It may or may not be impactful to us, but it's just getting an idea.
I think there is, I think there's something similar that actually happened, I think before I started about like 3 or 4 years ago when, they're actually trying to take out, the ERAF, revenue, the excess ERAF revenue as well. And, we actually defer, all of, the effects or anything that, would affect us, to the county on that. But essentially, I think I just calculated, the ERAF rebate, percentage of our total, revenue for the next fiscal year is about 9% of, the total revenue. So it could be significant. It could really impact us when it comes to the actual, revenue. When it comes to services, probably not, because we have actually on a year-to-year basis, we always have an excess funding when it comes to our expenditures, including, our capital outlays. So right now, I think it would probably not impact our services in the short term. Just looking into our projections of our revenue, even if we actually exclude the ERAF rebate, but still 9% of our current revenue is actually a big amount. So that actually takes away some of the funding that we can allocate to, let's say, our reserves or our capital projects or any other public service like expenses or enhancements within the district. So I think we will definitely take a look into that and see what are the things that we should look for or note for, and then we'll probably reach out to the county as well if they have any news or more information about that, then we can probably discuss that more.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll send a sheet.
One of the things that's going on right now is the ERAF is intertwined with the vehicle license fee, the VLA. And that's significantly impacting the county and on almost all of the cities. If you could share the article, or we'll take a look at it and make sure that that's what's accurate. But unfortunately for us, it does not affect the district. But right now, really challenging for the county and the cities in the VLF. And part of it has to do, I think, with us being one of the few counties in the state that are basic aid. And so we're a little bit different. But if you share that article with us,
sure, I'll
send it and make sure it doesn't.
Because they sent a busload of folks from Thrive organization and other nonprofit organizations last week to Sacramento.
It's an enormous issue for our county.
Talk about that.
And can I just kind of ask a hypothetical question on that? It sounds like it may not impact us. We won't know until we look at it. Is procedurally the way we would deal with that is it would come back to the finance committee and that would become part of the actual budget that's approved later in the year? Because this is preliminary budget. So I assume that if you were to get subsequent facts that says, hey, this money's not coming in, when we actually do the formal budget, that's where that would get adjusted. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So
misunderstanding?
if we get enough information that would really cause our revenue budget to be materially different from what the preliminary budget is, then yes, we'll include it in the next one, which is the new one. But let's say we adopt, the final budget without, any changes, right now. We actually still have the opportunity to change it during the fiscal year, like, next year for any budget amendments. Let's say, it's really significant that we think we should amend, the budget because of that. Then, we'll go back to the finance committee and then to the full board for us to amend our budget.
Yeah, because at 9%, if that's the number, if that were to go to zero and a 9% impact, that would be a material change. And so it sounds like you've got a process of which that would come back into the formal budget cycle.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say also, just because I'm involved in this, not directly, but I know a little bit about it. The ERAF was money that was taken from agencies and given to schools originally. And if the schools didn't spend it all, it came back to the agencies that their boss spent. Well, the way they've done these formulas, like a per student kind of basis, when the numbers are increasing, the schools are doing very well because they're getting more and more.
88.
But when they're declining and people are leaving schools and we've got a demographic shift now in terms of in the age demographics, there are fewer and fewer children in the schools. So the numbers are going down and schools are actually losing money now. And many of their costs are fixed, so it was fine when it was going up, but it's not fine when it's coming down. And so I think this is legislatively done. In other words, the legislature would have to make a change, which would take a long time before it would ever come to affect us at all. But I think, as Chief was saying, because most of our schools are funded by property taxes and not by the state money, it's not gonna affect our county very much. And so
$40 million is a lot of money from the county you're being held up at the.
yeah, but I think I think it's the vehicle license fees that are really hitting it, and they're hitting the schools also. So the schools are now trying to get the whole ERAF thing changed, so they get a bigger piece, the funding per student goes up and so forth. That's really the threat, and that would be a legislative battle.
Well, the article also mentioned that there's a deficit. The state is trying to figure out where the money is gonna come from, and they're looking at every potential pot of funds to try to.
But the state doesn't just have the right to grab it, is what I'm.
Well, they did when Gray Davis happened, they grabbed it. That's when they first started. So I'm just saying.
I think the law changed then, I think because they had a second bill that passed the legislature. Anyway,
Yeah,
I think the back door of it is that Governor Newsom's proposing, last I heard, a budget that's kind of without a deficit. And so he is going through a legislative process of saying, here's the new budget. And then they'll just tack on all these subsequent changes, whether that ever sees the light of day or gets approved. We'll leave that to the legislature to forecast that outcome
but it would at least be a couple of years before it ever
potentially.
could hit us.
I hope
Any
so.
other discussion?
No, I'm done with that one.
Okay. We have a public comment? Public comment?
And we have no hands raised online.
Okay,
I'll move that we adopt the resolution of the district's fiscal 26-27 preliminary budget and full-time equivalent staffing levels.
Second.
okay.
And that was Bloom and I'm sorry, Director Bloom and
Director Jones,
Jones?
Director
Okay.
Jones, what do you say?
the quiet one.
Roll call,
Wait,
please.
well, we've got a discussion.
I know what you said.
We,
Yeah, we just wait.
Hey,
No,
I'm
we had
sorry.
a discussion with budget, didn't
and we have Director Bernstein.
we? I want to make a comment about the budget.
Oh.
Did you close? Did we close? There was a motion, that's all. The motion.
Well, we asked for the
Chair-
discussion and then.
Chair got a hold of it.
And we asked for the discussion, I know, and then no one
I
had any
think we're talking
further
about the
discussion.
discussion on his report.
Can we reopen?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, yes. Mhm.
Thank you, go ahead, Joe.
If you have questions, Director.
I just wanted to make a comment. I'm really glad that, first of all, I support the budget. I'm voting for it. I'm not opposed to it. But I did have a comment about some things that have been added since the last time. And I also had a question about the trailer. Is the trailer for both or is it for people?
It's not for either, it's really for water rescue things like life vests,
Okay,
grill ropes, things like that. I originally denied it because I didn't have the right information on it, and I got the right information, and went, oh, and I saw the trailer, I'm like, no, we need to replace it. But it doesn't carry a boat, with a box.
I was just curious. I thought maybe it was for water rescue people who are camping out somewhere or something, like an RV or something. Okay. So the part that I like the direction, I know there wasn't a lot of time, but I just have a comment about the goals and so forth.
What page?
Well, let me start with page 636. This is not gonna be long, but I think I had 2 pages I wanted to comment on. So on page 636, it's fitness goals. And what I'd like to encourage us to have goals that relate to what we're actually trying to accomplish, rather than most of the not most, many of the goals, maybe half of them were expenditure goals, saying, oh, we're gonna spend this money. But that's not really a goal, it's just sort of an expectation or something. But for example, on at the very last group of items at the bottom of page 636, it says, the goal is to replace outdated treadmills with newer models. That's just saying we're gonna spend money, not really saying anything about blood pressure, obesity, alcohol consumption, sleep apnea, all these kinds of things that I think are really a key thing for firefighters. And we've expanded the fitness budget a lot. And I think we care about the health and safety of our firefighters. And I think they have some potentially serious health challenges among the kind of work schedule they have, but these other things, working out and so forth. I mean, for those guys that pump iron and all that, that's great, but for the guys that are seriously overweight, I don't think any of these goals really address that. I'd like to see us try to address the well-being of people rather than just the spending of money. So that's the, I know it says you're gonna refine the evaluation process, but it's not really clear that that's gonna. Let me just one more as an example on page 644. These are program initiatives for the new year. So the first, there's 5 things at the bottom of the page for 26, 27. Provide more training, support with replacement and upfitting. I guess that means, again, spending more money. The third one is annual updates for all these things. Purchase antennas, purchase, I don't know what an APX 900 is, but again, the idea is, I don't really see these as goals as much as, are we gonna have clearer communications? Are we gonna be able to reach people that are in forested areas? I don't know what the goal of this really is or how it improves the service level. And that's what I'd like to see more from. I know there wasn't enough time to do it this year, and I think this is an important addition to what we've been doing. I just would like to channel it so that it has the benefits for either people or our clients or reduction of expenditures or whatever it might be, not just spending more money.
Yeah, no, I think that's good feedback, because all of these things that they have listed here are supporting something that you're talking about. We just haven't said it, so we can say it,
It's more of a.
and it's supportive, yeah.
I think it's a matter of expanding the program objectives.
Yeah.
To be a little bit more goal oriented.
More affected.
I'm not expecting it to be done before
Oh, no, I get that,
that's all.
We'll get that next year's radar.
Exactly. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Now, is there any public comment?
No, we have, after the Director Solano's follow-up questions, no other hands have been raised.
Great, thank you. Roll call, please.
Sure. Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we go to proposed agenda items. Number 9, new proposed agenda item. That will.
That's where you want to add your bay rescue discussion again.
Yeah. Maybe the final bay rescue discussion. Relative to that. And then we'll provide some guidance relative to any structure or standard operating procedure, ROA mutual aid definitions relative to rescues on the bay. And what agencies will have jurisdiction and primary responsibility.
I will. I'm gonna develop an agenda item I'll share it with you offline, and if it meets your needs, then show up.
Great, thanks, that work. Yeah, thank you.
Rob,
Robert, do you have an agenda?
No, I want to kind of, if I may, explore the thought to go along with your thought.
Go ahead.
I know, what I know is that the group of Stanford students that have done a survey on lead poisoning coming out of the planes in both Palo Alto and East Palo Alto.
Oh, the airports. Okay.
So they've done that study, and they found out that they only surveyed one particular area. They didn't do all of, cover any of these Palo Alto. And one of the discussions, I was in a meeting about a month and a half ago, that took place, we talked about, and I raised the issue of what happens if when the planes go down in the bay. And they said somebody will come get them. And I said, well, who's that gonna come get them? And that kind of thing. And I think it might have been the group that I was talking to. It wasn't any firefighters or any public officials. So it may be interesting to kind of understand what the study that is being done with the airport and the Stanford students, and how that how their perception might be as to who would have first, who would be responding first. They said that they have an emergency plan, but they couldn't say what that plan really was, the group that was talked about. So it may be interesting to kind of follow up to see.
No, you bring up a good point, even who owns the airport. And supposedly, the city of Palo Alto owns the airport. So, now what is their responsibility as owners of that airport? Do they have to provide public safety response? To just a multitude, what's the responsibility of the fire department relative to that area? So there's a huge amount of questions. So Chief, you could add Robert's concerns there too. Thank you. Anyone else have any proposed agendas? Yeah.
I know if there are any firefighters listening to this, they're gonna hate me for saying this, but I would like us to, I don't have to defend this, right? I just have to mention it next month we discuss it. Okay. I would like to talk about studying or getting a report or a study or consulting analysis of having shifts, firefighter shifts, somewhere between 8 and 12 hours rather than the current plan. And my reason for wanting to do that is we typically have somewhere between 3 and 4 times the number of calls during the day than we have at night, and there's no reason to have the same strength of force on duty at night. I think there's many health issues. And the other thing that is surprising, and I don't understand why, it's one of the problems of the report that we get on that our travel time in the middle of the night rivals the travel time during rush hours. You say, how can that be? Somehow that's what the numbers are showing here. And I don't know what it means exactly, but in any case, it just seems to me we could have we could have shifts that kept firefighters closer to our district, which would be important in an emergency. 2, it would be healthier for them in terms of this interrupted sleep problem we have. And I just would like to study that.
I have no items to add.
No, I haven't.
I have another one. It's involving impact fees for fire districts. I attended the FDAC conference, and there was a booth there that BridgelineImmune.com, and it's a group of individuals that research impact fees involving fire districts. And I think, it would be good for him and his group to do a presentation, since we're having all these developments that are coming up here in our fire district, that if there's a way that we could latch on to some of those impact fees that definitely directly affect our fire district service. So I had emailed the chief on this information and I'll like to have it as an agenda item and have his group come in and do a presentation for us.
Gotcha.
Then we'll talk it, we'll go ahead and
It goes on the list.
It goes on the list, the big list.
Later discussion.
Right. Okay, we're down to reports. Committee reports, emergency preparedness did not meet. Facilities, did you meet?
No, we didn't.
We did not. Human resources,
We did not meet.
you didn't. Okay. Finance, you met right there.
We met and I have, unless Robert has something, I have nothing additional that we haven't covered.
We're good.
Yeah, we swept that for them.
Okay. Reports of directors, Robert.
No, you didn't skip liaison reports.
Okay, liaison report.
So Atherton, I wasn't at our last board meeting, so, and I did see in the minutes, there was a discussion about false alarm penalty collection. Within our board meeting, it turns out that the prior meeting of Atherton, which I did attend, and I wasn't here to report on it, they did talk about their alarm permit compliance and false alarm penalty collection processes. And they did ask whether the fire department actually charges for false alarms or has a policy. I said I wasn't 100% sure, but I didn't believe so. And then I saw it on our minutes from last month's meeting. So I would just report out that they are looking at theirs. They do have a formal policy. Yeah, it's after a certain number of alarms, I think you get 3 free ones and then they start charging you. Although residents frequently, the goal of their process is to get you to fix your alarm system, not to collect money from you.
Yeah, I have a question, just to,
Oh, that's interesting.
residents are not wired directly to the fire district at all, so any false alarm wouldn't go to the district.
It doesn't differentiate in Atherton. You have an option in Atherton. You can go directly, but you can also go through Bay Alarm or First Alarm or any other company. So you're not obligated to go through theirs. But if an alarm goes off to First Alarm, their call is to Atherton PD that says, we have a burglar alarm at this address, and they dispatch units. That then becomes eligible for a false alarm fee. So it has nothing to do with where it's reported. If we were to ever look at something similar, it'd be a similar situation. We don't take the calls, but PST is dispatching us on things that are later classified as false alarms.
They do minimum bar charges. for
Yeah, they
false
do as well.
alarms after
Yeah, it's again after a certain number, yeah.
They're discretionary.
But again, isn't that when a neighbor, because the alarm is sounding in the house and the neighbor calls the 911?
No, usually it's that you have a failing sensor on your alarm system.
Right.
Or ADT.
Yeah. I mean, we had one in our vacation house and I think the sheriff's office went out 15 times for a door open. They just failed to tell us until they sent us the document trying to find us.
$5,000.
And I was like, well, it would have been nice if on any one of them you would have called. It was just a failed wire that it broke. So,
Anything else?
no. So that was the Atherton, I did not attend this last meeting, that said conflict that I had for this meeting.
East Palo Alto.
Chief and I was at this meeting, I came in a little bit late, Batman was already there and Robin was on his way. So, and the reason I went to the meeting was there because they were talking about the emergency preparedness and the new emergency, I guess, manager, I guess that's what you call herself, was, they're making a presentation about, the city's, what she's trying to do, to trying to increase awareness on disaster preparedness. And that was it.
Okay, well, thank you, Robert.
Can I just make a comment about it? I just wanted to say, because it relates to East Palo Alto, my understanding is that today was the day that the Newell Street Bridge is closing completely.
I haven't heard that. I know they've been talking about it. I didn't know today was the day.
Is it? I don't know if it was today, but I heard that on the news.
Well, it said Friday for traffic and today for bicyclists and pedestrians.
Yeah, the goal is to do that bridge altogether.
That doesn't affect our fire district at all, does it? We don't, we
That
never
could bring us
use,
into Palo Alto.
okay, we would never use that bridge.
Unless there was some sort of automatic refueling going into Palo Alto.
And that's the
We
way.
would never do that.
Good.
Okay.
Don't go there.
Well, maybe we will.
They wouldn't be, I don't think the bridge would be able to hold the trucks anyways.
It's not a primary response for,
Next is City of Menlo Park, Virginia, is on call. County of San Mateo. Robert, you're.
I don't have anything to report.
Then we have the San Mateo Pre-Hospital Emergency Medical Joint Powers Authority, and that's tomorrow night. Well, they're bringing up a budget issue involving the communications group that they're rehiring. So I'll report that out at the next meeting. San Francisco Creek Joint Powers Authority.
Virginia as well.
And that Virginia too. Go down to item 12, reports of directors. Robert?
I don't have anything to report.
Nothing to report.
Chuck?
I don't think a report.
I don't either.
Oh.
So, president's report, and since the president isn't here, it will be in your report.
No report.
So, we'll adjourn this meeting and then, in 5 minutes.
We're not, so it's, we're not gonna adjourn the meeting, we're going to
You're going
convene
to
into
close.
closed session, right? So now time for any public comment on closed session, otherwise the board will convene in this room for closed session as described in that.
Is there any, public comment involving the closed session?
We have no hands raised online.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we at least take 3 minutes?
We can get 5 minutes.
Yeah,
But
but
we
actually-
can still be in closed
I
session,
agree
in
too.
5 minutes, right?
That's fine.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. So I can get my.
As soon as everyone's ready, we'll.
Thank you, there's nothing to report, we'll open the meeting from the regular session. We're coming back. Like, wait.
10:31.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Well,